fascinating. I'm hearing you, as I'm listening, I'm hearing something deeper than what on the surface sounds like systems designed for imparting knowledge or enabling people to acquire knowledge. And so I want to push a little deeper, if you don't mind, on this aspect. What are those deeper felt beliefs that I'm hearing resonating in the background that cause you to think that this is so important, that systems should actually be designed so that the systems themselves respond and learn, as it were, from the individuals that are learning with them?
Okay. I think to get started, I think that's a good segue to go into some of the past background that I bring to this. But before we do that, there's 3 points that I'd like to kind of set up with the viewers right now as to things that we're going to travel into over the course of our time. One is what we call mutually learning-oriented relationships. That one of the main themes that will pervade the time that we spend together is the need for designers of multimedia experiences, for designers of virtual computer environments, to begin to look at everything that they're doing in the process of design as if what they're doing is creating a lens to peer into and better understand this kind of need process that we've been describing. In fact, you might say that when it comes to multimedia, when it comes to this new kind of computer environment that's about to emerge giantly upon the world, that the customers for multimedia, okay, just as we talk about customer needs in other kinds of business environments, that when we talk about customer needs to a customer who is buying or living, learning, playing, performing in a multimedia environment, we're talking about meaning needs. I want to really make the equation stick. Customer needs equals meaning needs when we talk about this kind of a world. The reason that I want to do that, and we'll go into that again as we progress a little bit, is that a major inversion is starting to occur in our understanding of the learning process. This is point number 2. That whether we look at the science of organizations as it's emerging in Fortune 5000 companies or from cutting-edge consultants or in academia, so to speak, learning is starting to take on an entirely new significance. The same is true in educational research. The same is true in individual well-being sciences. All these things are starting to compel us to understand that there's a different significance to this whole learning process than we'd otherwise come to. And that it's because of this deeper granularity of awareness of the significance of learning and the learning process that we come back to having to have the mutual learning-oriented relationship process that I spoke of a moment ago. And the key to doing all this, I think, really is a change in our resolution of awareness. That so far, in the design of technology, in the design of educational environments, the resolution of our awareness of real human learners as opposed to statistical average bell curve people, virtual people, is about to go through a major change. And this also is one of the things that multimedia can bring about. So 3 points then. Mutuality, I want to come back to that again. A change in the significance of learning. And all of this requiring a change in the resolution of our awareness about where it is that technology meets a human being when its concern is to develop the capacities for learning, which again I will go into as we proceed. But to take on, or to move a little bit with your question, I'd like to say that I come here much more as a learner than an expert myself. As you know from our work together, we've spent the past 8 years or so really learning about learning, and recently only trying to map that over into how can we create what we call a relevancy bubble or a gymnasium around individuals in which they can begin to exercise how it is they learn. My real purpose is to serve individuals and organizations in ways that would help their subjective, objective, and mutual learning orientations evolve. I have been involved with 3 different organizations, or founded 3 different organizations. Learning Insights, which concerns itself with children in the public education system and at home, and in developing some technology which I'm going to show called the Learner Interface. With Diacom technology, which concerns itself with organizational dialogue, with asynchronous communication that has the spirit and meaning sync qualities of dialogue, and with Learners Unlimited, which is a seminar and workshop-based educational research group. This began for me about 8 years ago. Having been the president of my own company that manufactured very large, sophisticated capital equipment, I went on to take about a year's sabbatical and begin a process of following my own curiosities about learning. And at first, it took me through material from geology and anthropology and physics and what have you. And it came to a point about 9 months into this research project when the thing that became most interesting to me no longer was the content. It was no longer what I was learning about. It was about what was frustrating my learning, what was causing me to disengage. How was it that I was able to be full of passion and interest and deeply immersed into some subject matter and then all of a sudden drop out and be lost? You know, a paragraph or two go by and not know where I was and what had happened to me. So I switched off the track of trying to understand what it was that the material that I was pursuing, and became more and more interested in what it was that was causing me to disengage. What were the obstacles to learning that occurred both at a level that were, because of the way the information was presented, the way the libraries function and books functions and videotape and Nova specials and all the rest of it, but equally because there were certain deep learnings that I had, things that I had learned myself that were working against my capacity for learning. Well, that became, thereafter, the thing that I was most interested in. What was it about what I had learned and how I was learning that was cutting out my capacities for learning? Along this route, I've discovered many different things. Part of it had to do with the kind of it is so-ness tone that pervaded every textbook, every piece of material that I came encountered with. The one right wayness that was permeating everything that I came in contact with. And the more that I started to see the styles of the way that information was presented and structured, the more that it became more and more clear that it wasn't designed ever to facilitate somebody's learning. It was all from the provider's point of view. About this time, I had a little baby boy born, Darren, who I'll show some of his work as we progress also. And so while I was interested in the obstacles to learning, I had this kind of fresh laboratory growing alongside of me to watch and observe the learning process in. And this coupled up with my doing some work on the outside with organizations, such as at one point Apple, where we worked together. The combination of this internal concern for the obstacles to learning that I was encountering in my own process of trying to stay engaged, coupled with my observations of Darren and 18 nieces and nephews and so forth, and then my consulting work with organizations, all kind of led to the notion that there were certain underlying phenomena that was involved in all of these places about how it was that we have learned not to learn, how it was that we've picked up these obstacles. And I became convinced at this point, this is some 7 years ago now, that if we had relationships that corresponded, that danced with the kind of meaning needs that developing human beings have as they unfold themselves into a field of information or knowledge, that anybody could learn anything. That it became clear to me that the same powers that allow a child to learn to walk or hear or differentiate sounds or be able to tell characters and be able to learn to read words, that if they could bring the way that their nervous system already extends itself to learn to bear on the way that they relate to knowledge and information in the world, that anybody could learn anything, that there was this enormous unnecessary overhead to the structure of the way we relate to information. This launched off into a phase that takes us, back to where we are today, of some research that we've done over the past couple of years with organizations, with people on various cutting edges of individual well-being science, with educational researchers, educational leaders, which has led us to this, what I want to call an orientation shift, which is really the centerpiece that we need to go into in order to ground our conversation about multimedia and technology.